Welcome back to So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Tuesday episode. And this is the fourth time I've recorded this intro. I just can't seem to get it right. But we're here now together as a family. How was your Monday? Was it okay? Wasn't it fun? We had Trishelle on for the pop culture roundup. Sophie does every other week. And then in that other week, I always try to pick somebody that I really get along with or that I would love to hear their take on pop culture stories. And then it just happened that I wanted to have Trishelle back on ever since she won the Traders. And then I was like, "Oh, would you do a pop culture roundup?" And she did, and it was so fun to hear her talk about other shows. I thought that was great, and she has such a different perspective because she's been on these shows and she's dealt with some of the fallout from these shows, and it's a really interesting perspective that it's good to hear that side of things because I think it's kind of like this pro wrestling environment where everybody just body slams each other online. And it's interesting then to hear people's perspective of the people that get body slammed, especially on these shows. So that was interesting. We had Bergie on Friday. We had a Lindsay Hubbard update. We had another cast member from Love Island USA that I enjoyed. Oh my God, you guys, Love Island US. Anyways, today, it's just me and you. Today, we are doing a me and you catch up. We're going to do a lot of entertainment stories, a lot of Bravo stories that I've been wanting to talk about. There is like 30 news stories every day, and I just need to catch up and get some of this stuff that I have not been able to cover or kind of fill you in a little bit more. And then we have guests for the rest of the week. We have a guest on Wednesday. I recorded with her last week. She has a podcast called Corporate Gossip that I really enjoy. And I've always said, being a fan of pop culture, it's not just being a fan for me of the shows themselves. I like to know how the sausage is made. And I don't even mean just like how these shows are put together, but I mean the corporations behind these shows. Like who owns these companies? Who runs these companies? And they have this amazing podcast, Corporate Gossip, that goes over some of these big wigs and the stories behind them. And I think it's fascinating, and especially because Paramount Pictures, which we talked about it last week, but they finally officially sold. Paramount Pictures got bought in a huge multi-billion-dollar deal to a company called Skydance. And we'll get more into that on Wednesday's episode. But I find it fascinating because those kind of moves affect the content that we see. I was screaming a couple weeks ago that this was a Paramount cost cutting move, is that they did away with like decades of online material. They did away with a decade plus of Daily Show clips from Comedy Central. They got rid of all of this stuff. So, you can only find it on places like the Wayback Machine on the internet, but it's like disappeared. This is content that you would figure people would be able to find a way to make money from. And it's, the history of kind of these things that we love. And I think they're funny, they're educational, and I don't know why that these companies kind of just strip all of this content away. But it's in the name of the almighty dollar. So, anyways, we have corporate gossip on Wednesday, so come check that out. But today it is just me and you, so buckle in, folks. I'm still thinking about the Gwyneth Paltrow story about Derek Blasberg. We talked about this on Monday's episode, but I'm still reeling from the date. We might need to revisit that Daily Mail story again because it is. I mean, we're halfway through the year, but I'm like, could this be my number one story? Is this the story that there's always one ridiculous story that, a couple years ago, it was soaking. Remember the Mormon soaking thing? And me and Sophie got really into that, where I mean, it was proven that actually people were doing this. And by the way, this is a family show, so kick your kids out of the car because I'm going to explain it one more time. But soaking was allegedly popular around the Brigham Young University campus, which is primarily, Mormons. And they would call it soaking because, they're not supposed to have sex until, you're married in the temple, to be more specific. So they found a way to get around the rules of God. And what they would do is, if I'm remembering correctly, is that they would okay, listen, you guys know how sex works, right? So the guy would do the thing with the girl thing, but just no movement, and just lay there. And then there would be another person on the bed, and that person is called a jump humper. And they were supposed to jump up and down and up and down and up and down as hard and as whatever pace that they wanted. I don't know why I'm saying hard and fast. Maybe it was slow and low. Who knows? But they were the jump humper, and that would create like the friction and the movement. So technically, the male involved wasn't doing anything. Like wasn't I can't believe now I'm actually saying this out loud now. And we used to talk about this all the time a couple of years ago, and I still can't believe that was an actual thing. Like all of a sudden, we talked about it so much, and then it just disappeared. We don't talk about we don't talk about soaking nearly enough to my liking. The more because it almost sounds fictional when I'm explaining it to you guys, but I swear to God, I swear to God, this happened. We talked about this all the time a couple of years ago, and as I say it out loud, I probably should just shut my mouth because it's too much. But anyways, that was like the story I was fixated on a couple of years ago. But now I think the Gwyneth Paltrow, Derek Blasberg Daily Mail story is my new story of note. I mean, it's like I said, 6 months into the year, but you are getting the so bad it's good story of the year. I am potentially awarding this very early in 2024 because I don't know how you get better than this story. And yeah, let's go over this story one more time again, just in case anybody missed the Monday episode. And please, okay, we're just going to read that line one more time, see how we feel about it, and then we'll move on to real stories, even though this is real news, according to the Daily Mail. Okay, here we go. Daily Mail. This is the headline. Mystery celebrity who fled Gwyneth Paltrow's Hamptons home after suffering, quote, catastrophic diarrhea is revealed, all in capital letters, as insiders claim bowel issues were not caused by Ozempic. So that is such a headline. It gives so much of a story there. And also, I just can't imagine, like, I almost feel so bad for this Derek Blasberg. Like, imagine a headline that points out to the world that not only do you have tummy issues, but it's catastrophic. Like catastrophic, like those are the words that we use to like describe like the Titanic. And somebody is like, your bowel movement is catastrophic. And then like I keep thinking about like the people in my life that I would not want this to happen to me around. And I have to say, one of them is Gwyneth Paltrow. Like that is, I mean, it's like some of friends and family, but then one, definitely Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, just imagine that. Cause Gwyneth Paltrow as like, as she always seems to be about manners and like, this is the right way to treat your body, but she's a shit talker. You just know she's and this probably made her year as much as this headline made my year. So we get into the article. The mystery surrounding the unfortunate guests who lost control of their bowels in a bed at Gwyneth Paltrow's Hamptons home has now been solved. DailyMail.com can reveal, I love that this is an exclusive, can reveal exclusively that the culprit behind the mortifying incident is socialite and celebrity hanger-on Derek Blasberg. HBO Max, if anybody at HBO Max is listening or watching this podcast, please, can I be a talking head in the eventual Derek Blasberg Goop Poop docuseries that will happen? Like, please let me be just a talking head where I come on and I'm like, yeah, I was in my bed. It was the day before the 4th, and I was scrolling Daily Mail as I do. And I happened to, just because my eyes are trained this way, I happened to pick up the word diarrhea. So I immediately clicked on the article to read, and lo and behold, the story of the year. Like that would be I would be a great as a talking head. The internet was whipped into a frenzy last week when a blind item in a popular gossip newsletter claimed that Goop founder Paltrow, 51. Also, that's another thing. Can we do away with that in newspapers? Like, why do we need to know Gwyneth Paltrow's age in this? Like, why do we oh, 51. Okay, that now this is all coming together now. Gwyneth Paltrow has been tasked with cleaning up someone's Ozempic-induced diarrhea at her home. That's another fallacy, too, because there's no way in hell that Gwyneth Paltrow cleaned this up herself. I need to talk to Gwyneth Paltrow's, she's got to have a working staff. We need to talk to this working staff because potentially they had the worst holiday ever. Insiders have claimed that media personality Blasberg, 42, once described as one of showbiz's most well-connected men. Yeah, I mean, he says some of his Some of his stomach isn't connected with the parts that it should be, only conveniently blamed it on the popular weight loss wonder drug before allegedly fleeing the party. So in this article, it makes it seem like Derek Blasberg, obviously did this thing in the bed and then said, "Oh my God, I gotta go. It's Ozempic. It's Ozempic. I gotta go. Bye, Gwyneth. Keep it KIT. Have a great summer. It was Ozempic." So this Blasberg is blaming Ozempic. So potentially this article is written in the pockets of Big Pharma, like Big Ozempic, where they're like, we're going to ruin Derek Blasberg's life because no way is this a-hole going to blame his goop poop on our drug Ozempic, not on my watch. So maybe they're working in conjunction with the Daily Mail. Quote, "It's not Ozempic. That's just what he told everyone," the insider said before revealing how the secret made its way through the Hampton set. I don't know. I know that quote is unidentified, but also that sounds a lot like Jill Zarin, right? It's not Ozempic. Hi, it's me. I'm here. It's not Ozempic. That's just what he told everyone. Gwyneth told Oprah, Jerry and Jessica Seinfeld and Larry David. So Gwyneth told, is a text exchange or it's like, "Hey, Gwyneth for Oprah Winfrey," "Oh my God, Oprah, what up? It's Gwynny. Guess who shit all over my bed this weekend?" How is this? Or are they all on a text chain together? Like Larry and Jerry and Oprah and just Gwyneth is just texting the text thread? Quote, "It's shocking how many people know this story and how he has managed to keep it out of the Post." You didn't manage to keep it out of the Daily Mail, Derek. Probably via his best friend, socialite Dasha Zukova. Oh my God, socialite Dasha Zukova enters the chat, whose mom just married Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch owns Fox, you guys. This goes deep. I mean, this goes deep. Blasberg is no stranger to spending time with Paltrow at her 5-bedroom Long Island home, where she hosted her wedding to Brad Falchuk. So this Blasberg feels very comfortable around Gwyneth Paltrow's home. In 2022, the fashion expert posted a snap of himself and the actress celebrating her 50th birthday at the sprawling property. And it appears someone tried to out Blasberg as the Phantom Pooper. Phantom Pooper. It doesn't get better than that. Listen, this is the moment where I was like, I'd love to make t-shirts that said, "So bad it's good, Phantom Pooper," but I know I would be the only one that would buy it. I am the Phantom Pooper. Where they commented, somebody tried to out Blasberg 4 weeks ago when they commented 2 poop emojis, a toilet emoji, a dynamite emoji on the Instagram. so there was an Instagram. We didn't talk about this part of the article in yesterday's episode. So there was a photo of Blasberg and Gwyneth Paltrow from the past, and somebody went on the post and so I haven't laughed like this in a minute. So somebody commented 2 poop emojis, a toilet emoji, and a dynamite emoji. It was Oprah, dude. Oprah has a Finsta account. She just leaves snide emojis. Oh, speculation first kicked off last week when a blind item report started circulating via an email newsletter called Pop Bitch. How do I get on this email newsletter? Pop Bitch. I want to be on the Pop Bitch. Okay, anyways. Quote, "The story goes that a recent house guest of Gwynny's catastrophically shit themselves in bed while staying there, then fled back to the city before they had to face the music." We gotta go now. We gotta get out of here. Revealing that the scandal had become the Hampton set favorite piece of gossip to text to each other. The report continued, "Ozempic-induced diarrhea is becoming a very hot topic of conversation between hosts there because so many of their guests are using it. So expect laundrettes to be fully booked from July 4th. Spokesperson for Blasberg and Paltrow did not respond to requests for comment. Hey, Gwyneth, we're getting more requests for you to talk about the Phantom Pooper. Would you be willing to go on record with Time Magazine, Gwynny? Blasberg most recently worked as the head of fashion and beauty partnerships at Pooped YouTube and is a contributing editor at Vanity Fair, Architectural Digest, and several international editions of Vogue. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for this because it's like those are the worst jobs to have with a poop rumor out there about yourself. Like in the fashion industry, I would imagine you're looked down on for even having any sort of bowel movement, for even like having food in your stomach to have a bowel. Like, ooh, what? I poop once a week. What are you talking about? Blasberg, get this, Blasberg, who penned very classy, even more exceptional advice for the extremely modern lady. So he wrote a book called Very Classy, should be called Very Assy. So even more exceptional advice for the extremely modern lady. Yeah. Hey, here's a tip: don't shit the bed at Gwyneth Paltrow's. Paltrow is a close friend, but also frequently spends his time with the likes of Carly Kloss, Sienna Miller, Kendall Jenner, and Demi Moore. Oh, Kendall Jenner. It's fine, Derek. I would let you shit in my bed anytime. Thanks to the influence and connections as a top fashion journalist, socialite, and television personality, his birthday parties often serve as a warm up to the Met Gala for his A-list attendees. Maybe let's not use the words warm up in the story. For his 42nd birthday bash in April, A-list stars such as Anne Hathaway, Kate Hudson, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Andy Cohen were Andy knows Derek. Andy was at Derek's birthday party. In 2022, his bash was attended by Jeff Bezos, Hailey Bieber, and Leonardo DiCaprio, among others. So this guy is stacked in celebrity friends. According to this blind item, the popularity of Ozempic is causing an issue among the rich and famous as they holiday together in the Hamptons. That is horrible. We do not want anything to happen to our rich countrymen. Ozempic typically used to treat diabetes. Anyways, the active blah, 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 blah. In recent months, a handful of celebrities have admitted to using Ozempic, including Oprah, Elon Musk, Sharon Osbourne, Chelsea Handler, Robbie Williams, and the majority of the housewives on Bravo. Comedian Amy Schumer also admitted to taking the drug in 2022, but revealed she had to quit due to the side effects. Quote, I was one of those people who felt so sick, she said, which I feel like the Daily Mail is hinting that Amy had the shits too. Like that's what it seems like that is. There's no reason for that to be like, why just throw in Amy Schumer all of a sudden unless you want us to think she had tummy issues as well. And by the way, I know this is not everybody's fun topic of conversation talking about bathroom etiquette. I know this is very un-Countess Luann of me. But we got to talk. It's a pop culture story, and I'll put a timestamp so you can skip to the next thing. so, I'm gonna joke. Okay, so this story is kind of going around, and this is from an article in Vulture today by Rebecca Alter, and kind of goes over the details that we just went over, but then has some updates, and it says. Despite Blasberg allegedly leaving a trail of evidence in his wake, the incident is contested. On July 3rd, Laney gossip blogger Maria Tallarico wrote that they had received a letter around 3 weeks prior that this same rumor, minus the Ozempic detail, was floating around New York City and that it took place at Paltrow's Montecito guest house. So now we've moved on to a different coast. And Blasberg has not posted to his Instagram grid since July 1st. Maybe he's backed up before these items were published, so he has yet to personally confirm or deny. But Blasberg isn't going to fucking like post an Instagram with him on the toilet and go, it's totally true, you guys. I made it this time, LOL. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to be following Derek Blasberg and really, I mean, I just wish this guy the best. This is one of the worst rumors for a rich and powerful person, I bet, like it's one thing to like spread a rumor that this dude's poor. It's another thing to say he like shit and ran out of Gwyneth Paltrow's place. Okay. So I just needed that laugh to start the show. Now we can actually get to some real news now. Okay. So this next story, we're going back to Vanderpump Rules because we need to talk about Lala for a second. Don't groan. We're going to talk about Lala for a quick second. Also, I want to make an announcement. This is kind of exciting. Starting next Friday afternoon, we will be doing a new thing on the Patreon that I was toying around with the idea of, and we're just going to give it a shot. So starting next Friday on the Patreon, we will be recapping, or I will be recapping the entire first season of Vanderpump Rules. It will be the summer of Vanderpump. We will be doing the first 10 episode season. and I'll be recapping that. And I've never done that before. And I'm really excited because we'll be able to trace the insanity. We'll be able to see season one is kind of a perfect season. We get to revisit Jack. I mean, this is perfect because the Valley's going to start filming this week. So this will be great to revisit some of Jax's greatest hits. Stassi Schroeder, Sheena. We'll be able to start from that first scene going into like from Beverly Hills with Brandy and then directly into Vanderpump Rules. So we'll be starting that. We'll be doing the first 10 episodes of the first season and we'll see how it goes. So if that's your jam, we'll probably put the first one on the main feed here. And then if you like it, consider joining the Patreon. But if not, no worries. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I don't miss this season of Vanderpump Rules, but I do miss sometimes talking about the show. I do miss it. It's okay. I like it. But anyways, Lala, I don't know if you know, has a podcast herself. Give them Lala. And one of my favorite Instagram accounts, Vanderpod Recaps, I think is excellent. They do a lot of heavy lifting over there where they listen to all the Vanderpod, all the Vanderpump, podcasts and anything to do with Vanderpump Rules. And I will go over there and check it out sometimes rather listening. And if I listen, I'll listen at like 2.5 speed, especially when I was listening to Rachel's podcast. Give them Rachel. No, Rachel Goes Rogue. But anyways, this was interesting when I read this and I thought you guys would enjoy this, where on Lala's podcast, her and her co-host Jessica, they got into a conversation about Lisa Rinna. Lisa Rinna, at a time, for a time, an iconic housewife. Obviously she left a mark, but by the end of her run on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I've said this time and time again, I thought she became a caricature of herself. She became somebody that was just really, didn't have much of a storyline herself, but used other people's storylines and really pushed so hard to, make it a storyline and to make herself a part of that storyline. And I thought her last season was just some of her worst work for a character that started off so strong. And I think that's something interesting to pay attention to in reality television is the thing that people love you for in the beginning, you can eventually kind of get full of yourself with and become that caricature of yourself. And you kind of lose that thread of why the majority of the audience loved you in the first place. And, by the way, some people still absolutely love Lisa Rinna. And I give her credit for, being a housewife that we still talk about, but, she's out there now doing fashion shows and she did a Lifetime movie like a month ago. And whatever floats your boat. I mean, I hope that she's successful, but there's not a lot of reason to talk about Lisa Rinna when she's not on one of the shows that we cover here. But Lala wanted to talk about Lisa Rinna on her podcast. So she's like, let me tell you something about Lisa Rinna. I'm obsessed with her. I dig her. A lot of people in the Bravo community come for her a lot, like still to this day, wild. I'm like, y'all hold a grudge. You got to let it go. You don't know this woman. You don't know this woman. And Jessica's like, over what? Is there something I'm missing? Was there, I'm saying, and Lala's like, apparently they didn't like the way that she reacted her final season, trying to pit sisters against each other. I'm like, bitch, we're making TV. All right. You're welcome. You're fucking welcome. So they don't like her. People have gone on to say that I am becoming Lisa Rinna. Compliment, thank you. Since leaving the Bravo universe, I only see negativity about her in the Bravo universe. Outside of it, you get out of the vortex of what is the Bravo bubble, the articles. I mean, she was at, what is it, Vogue World? Yeah, she's fucking killing it. Every article outside of the vortex is like, since leaving Housewives, Lisa Rinna has completely catapulted into like actual Hollywood. Her daughter won like Supermodel of the Year. She's killing it. They were out together in Paris during Vogue World. Just absolutely fabulous. Love to see it. And Jessica's like, she's thriving. We love that. Lala's like, yeah, the Bravo universe got to calm down. It's a lot, man. And I've never been on the other side of it. Jessica's like, what do you mean? You've never been on I've been on the side of like, people may not dig me, but there's a lot of people who do dig me. Now I'm on the side of it where it's not like I went out and gave some absurd political view. It's not like you saw me like doing something horrific in an elevator. I literally asked a question for someone who got cheated on, period. And you would think that I murdered a litter of puppies the way that Bravo Vortex is just fucking turned. And I read Lisa Rinna articles and she's like, it was wild, like wild, still to this day. They're like, there's a lot of hatred that comes from that world. And then Lala's brother, Easton, chimes in, the one that has the Adam Duritz hair that I like. Easton's like, what about a VPR one? Like, what is a very iconic VPR? Oh, I guess this is later on in the podcast, even if you're not on it. And she's like, Jessica's like, no, there's a lot in here. There's so many Housewives one. I mean, I could go through and read it. I'm just trying to pick the ones that are the most common. Lala's like, I can't say like iconic moments from Vanderpump Rules because it's so close to home. Well, I don't look at any of the moments as like iconic, if that makes sense. And she's like, can I tell you, I watched seasons 1, 2, and 3 during the pandemic, and I could not tell you what happened. So I don't know. But Housewives, though, a mini. So Lala, in one fell swoop, is kissing Lisa Rinna's ass and also slamming her own show. And I am sorry to break it to Lala, and I'm sure somebody's broke it to her since then, but seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Vanderpump Rules, that's like the Godfather trilogy. Are you kidding me? Those are, and then, by the way, this is part of the reason why I will be recapping season 1 of Vanderpump Rules. There's no way you don't fucking, I'm the devil, don't forget it. Jax with the chunky sweater. You're sitting here with a straight face on your podcast and saying you went back and watched those and you couldn't tell us what happened? Oh, Lala. I mean, by the way, maybe it is too close to home, but she's not even on those seasons, but this is an insanely good reality television show. And Housewives are insanely good. But let's go through this just a little bit more with a fine tooth comb. Is that Lisa Rinna, right? So you're saying Lisa Rinna, the Bravo vortex. And I do agree in the sense that there is a Bravo vortex. And when you go outside and you touch grass and you look at your neighbors or whoever you're around, a good 70% of them won't know what the fuck you're talking about. They will think you are speaking in some weird foreign language if you start talking about Bravo, even though it is now obviously more known. There's cachet to it in a sense, but still, I like that too. I like that that's why Vanderpump Rules, last season, it was so insane because it did feel like after Scandal, more of the world was watching, where it was nice back in the day that it was like a secret society in a sense. It was a popular secret society that if I was wearing my free Countess Luann t-shirt, I would walk down the street and, 10 people wouldn't know what the hell I was wearing, as usually that is the case. But one person would be like, hey, free Luann. And you'd be like, a compatriot, somebody that shares the same taste that I do. And that was nice. It was great. There's a lot of us out here. But the Bravo Vortex, it's Lala obviously had a very tough season, and Lala is a very prideful person, or at least that's how she comes off as the character of Lala Kent on Vanderpump Rules. And we knew that this would happen, that there would be this, the actual event of the finale and the blowback from the reunions. And then, it's almost like the stages of grief, like I don't even think she's gone to the phase of acceptance yet. But at some point, Lala's going to have to kind of maybe take in other people's thoughts and feelings. And I would imagine, first of all, one of those people should be Ariana, right? But I think there's residual anger of Ariana kind of blowing up because at this point, Lala might not even be able to get a hold of Ariana because she's working in Fiji with Love Island. And that obviously has got to be upsetting. I mean, Lala obviously has her own thing going. She's wildly successful, no matter how many people disliked her on this previous season. But I think you run into a little bit of trouble when you start comparing yourself to Lisa Rinna. And also, if you think Lisa Rinna is fucking killing it, if you think she is outside the Bravo Vortex and she is crushing Hollywood, then go follow her lead. Go crush Hollywood. Maybe that is your calling. Maybe Vogue World, maybe walking the runways. Like be that supermodel. Do that. Follow your bliss. And obviously, if the Bravo Vortex isn't your bliss, which I get it, you had a hard season, but I think doubling, tripling down, and then comparing yourself to Lisa Rinna, there is something so bizarre in that. Because also then you're saying, you kind of she kind of alludes to that Lisa Rinna all of a sudden has catapulted into actual Hollywood. And I think that is really short-sighted in not knowing anything about Lisa Rinna. Obviously, like I said, not the biggest Lisa Rinna fan, but Lisa Rinna has been around Hollywood forever. I mean, she was on Melrose Place. She was on soap operas. She had a career in Hollywood long before Real Housewives of Beverly Hills was ever a twinkle in her eye. Always. I mean, her and Harry Hamlin had been together. Harry Hamlin, a very respected actor. Like I remember when they got together before, Bravo even existed. So Lorena has always, been more Hollywood and has worked more as an actor in Hollywood than most people on any of these Bravo shows. So all of a sudden she didn't become Hollywood. Maybe she's like getting back to that and trying to pick up jobs here and there. And obviously, like I always think, with Lisa Rinna, when you see her at these fashion shows and she's dressed like, a bizarre Andy Warhol at some of these things. And you don't want to become, or I would wonder if she ever worries about the risk of becoming a literal caricature, of literally then, having to dress almost dress almost like Halloween at every fashion show you go to from this point on, because a lot of people are going to talk and write about it. Like I think I was one of the only people that didn't make a meme when she was dressed like, Andy Warhol in the tuxedo, it looked like Truman Capote on Ozempic. And I was just like, oh, that's Susie. And plus, Lisa Rinna's not on Housewives anymore. It's not nearly as fun to poke fun at her because it's not in my wheelhouse. But I don't know. I just thought this was such an interesting thing on the podcast. And it was, I don't listen to her podcast. So reading, Vanderpod recaps, you're like, oh man, it still seems like she's very upset. And once again, it's not her fault at all. It's the audience's. It is the audience's fault. It is the Bravo Vortex's fault. It is the smoke monster's fault. It is not her fault at all. I don't know. I just find that interesting as a human, right? I'm reading this book right now, and it talks about trying to get a little better each day. It's like you're never going to be perfect, but can you try at least to be better than you were the day before? Like, can you just try to be a little bit better? Maybe try admit the places where you made a mistake and say, you know what, I recognize that was a mistake. I'm going to try to do better tomorrow, and try to build your life that way, and to build, and that can give you, like, it's a book about confidence, which is so funny. But I mean, this is why Lala isn't reading books like this, because she seems like she already has a vast amount of confidence. But there is no part of Lala that I ever believe that she is looking at her own behavior and going, oh, I can learn from this. I can learn from this. And I understand why people are so upset. And as a viewer of reality television, because she says she loves Housewives so much, she knows, and she knows the game, and she always talks about, wow, Lisa Rinna was making amazing television, making those moments. But that's the type of character. I was talking about this yesterday when we were talking about Tamra, and we were talking, comparing Tamra and Shannon Bedore. And I said, Shannon Bedore just is herself. She's just herself, for better or worse, warts and all. Tamra, I think there is a brain there, and she's being herself. There's also this element of, she knows how this game works. She knows how this game works. I'm always going to go towards the Shannon Bedores that are just, for better or worse, being themselves. Being themselves. They will look bad, they will look good, all the range of emotions. But Tamara, sometimes it feels like she's playing a game. And Lisa was playing a very sloppy game in her last season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, right? And that's when I started to kind of lose interest in her as a character, because she makes it painfully obvious that we are watching reality television, that we have left any sort of reality behind, and we are in full dynasty mode. We are in full soap opera mode. And there is a place for soap operas. Obviously, the Housewives are inspired by soap operas. But I do think at the end of the day, you do need a little meat on that bone. You do need a little real. And it's not about just creating moments. It's about showing human behavior. And I know that's a tall order, and I know I sound like a goof when I say that, but I do think if you think about some of your favorite moments on these shows, it'll be around real human behavior. Stupid things that somebody says in a moment that, you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? That's so real. I always say that you get goosebumps. Like when you watch something or listen to something that rings true to you as a person, you will actually get goosebumps. I'll get chills. Like I really get chills when I watch something that I know is real. That you're like, oh my God, it's a voyeuristic quality that you're like, I shouldn't even be watching this. How did this even make it to air? This is wild. But Lala talks about it of like, we go in there and we create moments. And to me, that's when it starts to become like, oh, well, you're just play acting. Like, I want to know that there is skin in the game. I want to know that this is affecting you. I want to see people rise above. And I think that's where Ariana got the support that she did because this was somebody putting their life together and rising above. And I think sometimes that can annoy people when somebody is literally, I don't know. So, anyways, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share that with you, but most importantly, wanted to tell you we're going to start recapping Vanderpump Rules over on the Patreon season 1. I'm actually really, really excited about this. Maybe we'll give Lala a Patreon membership and we can go over. By the way, see now this is like I would love to recap an episode of one of those first seasons with Lala. Like that's the thing. I think her podcast, go and recap your favorite housewife shows, Lala. Like, show us what you think is amazing about these because I know she gets a kick out of it. I know she loves it. And I think that would actually be this good idea for her podcast to actually remind the fans of why you like these shows and what you think is amazing as just a fan yourself, as a viewer and not somebody that works in it. I mean, that is actually great knowledge, but I would love to see from a gut level what Lala responds to and if it really is always those kind of Lisa Rinna characters. Because then I would figure that she loves Tamra from OC. I'm trying to think who else is like probably loves Dorinda. I mean, but Dorinda kind of splits the difference for me. Dorinda can't help but be herself, warts and all, but also Dorinda, I think, knows how to play the game or thinks she knows how to play the game because there is a strategic element to Dorinda that I find fascinating. And that's why I'm so excited to see her on Traitors season 3. Okay, so that is Lala. Moving on. Okay, moving on to another former housewife. Some people consider her a legend as well. The one, the only Bethany Frankel. Bethany Frankel had a huge Frankel of a weekend. She was Frankeling everywhere. Of course, I know it's Bethany Frankel, you guys, but I like to call her Bethany Frankel. And in the Hamptons, there was this kind of amazing moment, which we talked about yesterday, where Luann was at the same party as Bethany and her daughter Bryn, and it was really nice. And Luann, got Bryn in the video, like, come on, come here, Bryn, money can't buy you class, all that kind of. It was really nice, and I thought, wow, everybody putting aside their differences, they both spoke, poor of each other in the past, and maybe we can put all of this kind of insanity behind, and it's like this kind of great lesson where you're like, oh yeah, like maybe people can forgive and forget and move on. And Bethany has, reminded us constantly of what a tough road she has had. Bethany, I think, is so fascinating in so many ways because, I mean, somebody that has done so well for themselves. And if you read between the lines, a lot of her content to me comes out not as like, I mean, this is a cry for help too, but a little bit of a cry for help of it just seems like there is this vast hole in her that needs to be filled. And she thinks it's constantly, I think it's like the attention economy. She needs so much of it for herself. And everything becomes content. If she can't go into Chanel, that becomes content. If she's now starting to talk about her split with her fiance Paul, and she said she took some time, but now she's going to talk about it. She's going to podcast about it, and of course, because everything in her life is content. But I thought it was kind of nice where I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is like kind of really sweet. And then we wake up today and it has gone completely south. This is from an Us Weekly headline. Luann de Lesseps is hurt by Bethany Frankel's dishonest reunion video, says she's still blocked. Great headline. So Luann de Lesseps and Bethany Frankel are not on better terms despite their friendly run-in over the weekend. Quote from Luann: after watching Bethany's video and still being blocked by her on social media, I realized she just used her daughter to get to me. De Lesseps 59 exclusively told Us Weekly about how there wasn't a genuine reconnection with Frankel 53. First off, another like point out that they have to put their ages in, just like we were talking about with the Blasberg article. But by the way, Countess Luann, 59 years old. My God, she looks amazing. De Lesseps noted that she was initially really happy to see Frankel before realizing the reunion was insincere. To watch the video, it hurt my feelings, she added. They were at Jason Wenberg's Saturday, July 6th party in the Hamptons. Now, Bethany Frankel, that would be somebody funny to like actually have a big shit fest at Gwyneth Paltrow's. Like, I mean, Derek Blasberg, move over. If you woke up to the headline that Bethany Frankel was the mystery pooper in the Hamptons, I would have been like, ha ha, you are eating too much cottage cheese. I watch all your videos with you eating cottage cheese with your mouth open all the time. That cannot be good for your stomach. Anyways, after the promising interaction, Frankel offered more insight into where she and De Lesseps stand now. And let me just play you the audio from this from Bethany herself, from the horse's mouth. And I want to tell you, this is on her TikTok. She actually recorded this twice in different locations. An account I follow, I'm trying to remember the name, posted the original one that before it was deleted. And then she redid the video with the same story, except in this one, she's eating a bunch of seafood, like, and just with her mouth, like, I'll tell you what's going on in the Hamptons. And I'm like, who started this? Why do we have to watch people eat on camera? I mean, like, TikTok is fine, but if that's what, like, it's like, are we just two steps away from Bethany just doing mukbangs? I just can't. I wake up in nightmares still from that video of her with the crab boil, the seafood boil, remember last year? And she looked like she had Vaseline on her face and she just looked like, I'll tell you where to get seafood. And she was just like picking at it and just wide eyed. It was insane. I thought it was like a Miramax horror film for a second. But this is Bethany re-recording what actually went down. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth, Bethany herself. Here we go.
This is the scam, because if you weren't here, I'd be eating this with my hands. But here we are.
She's using a fork for the seafood.
I went to this guy, Jason Weinberg's Hollywood entertainment industry and other people party. Like, I saw Emma Roberts and I saw Luann and I saw someone I knew from college and I saw Steve Madden.
Oh my God, Bethany, excuse me, you just dropped this name.
It was crazy. Like, I thought like the Muppets were going to walk out. Leah Michelle, pregnant. Two of my former publicists.
I've got my mouth full.
One pregnant.
Wow.
46 years old. Amazing.
Thanks for the details. She's chewing.
Luann. And Bryn gets all devious.
Bryn gets devious. Throws her daughter under the bus.
Like, just say something.
Bryn gets devious.
Why not, right?
Right.
Also a good example for Bryn. This is a scam. If you weren't here, like, we got to be good examples. So I basically just said, hey, congratulations, And she was like, and Bryn's there, which is a great bridge, and she'd be a great diplomat because she bridged my relationship with my mother too.
That's a lot of pressure on Bryn.
Hugged Bryn. And we had to do it on social media, obviously, because if it didn't happen here, it didn't happen anywhere. It's like a tree falling. So that was nice. Just clean. And she texted me and she was like, we're like some discombobulated family or something. And
we're like some discombobulated family.
It's okay. And I am eating with my hands now. Too bad. Cancel me. Here we are. We'll change the channel. It's okay. So that was pleasant. And it's fun because you're ultimately, like, when I saw Jill on the plane.
Jill Zarin.
The fans went crazy. Like, people love that.
Yeah, they do, Bethany.
Nature is healing. It was amazing. And Emma Roberts doesn't even realize that she was like part of a moment. I'm sure she was there for the whole thing. And Emma Roberts is more famous than any of us and like a real actress. Like, and she's in the picture with us. It's like, where's Waldo? Like, why is Emma Roberts there? It's just very funny. It was so funny.
Oh, so funny. So
John
funny.
Hamm is there.
Oh, John
I'm
Hamm.
mad at him for getting married to somebody that's not me, even though we've never met before. But his loss, obviously.
Crickets.
Fun party. I hope you realize I can't walk 2 steps without someone bringing up Chanel. I'm not kidding. It could be a billionaire. It could be...
Because you made it your entire personality.
A housewife. Everyone brings it up.
Does everybody bring up how you chew with your mouth open on social media all the time? Okay, so Luann says, like, listen, Luann, if it doesn't happen on video, if it doesn't happen, did it really happen? That is rich coming from Bethany Frankel, who literally puts every moment on her social media. Like, I love that she throws Luann under the bus when it is actually she does the same. All of these housewives, they follow the same playbook. It is so weird. Somebody needs to do a some kind of thesis, some kind of behavioral study on Bethany Frankel and her social media. This has got to be an amazing thesis paper in some kind of collegiate program. Maybe that's what I go back to school for, is just talking about the psyche of Bethany Frankel and using all of the business ventures, the TikTok cries for help, Chanel, all of it. So throws cold water on this whole thing. And I guess Luann was blocked. And in the video that she deleted, she also had explained that she told her team to unblock Luann and then tag her in the post because she wanted to tag her. She was generous. She wanted to tag her. But yeah, I mean, listen, it was a nice picture. We had it all for one moment in time. And now it is just content to make fun of Luann. And Luann gets an Us Weekly article out of it. So I guess everybody wins. But Bethany, I mean, a tough week because it does not end there, folks. Bethany Frankel also, this was so fascinating. So Bethany Frankel's ex, Paul Vernon, they were engaged. Well, they separated a while ago, and he started dating Aurora Culpo. And me and Sophie Ross talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the Pop Culture Roundup. And Culpo been in the news because Olivia Culpo just got married last week, and it was a very big wedding. But I guess Paul and Aurora Culpo have split after 2 months of dating, right? So they split. So you would think, okay, well, at least Bethany hasn't said anything about this, letting Paul go live his life, has no comment on this, right? That is not the case, folks. Okay, so Bethany has to be thrilled. She's in the news a lot. And this is in regards to, Paul. And she says, Bethany Frankel breaks silence on ex Paul Vernon's relationship with Aurora Culpo, sends message to Aurora, and makes comment about Olivia Culpo too. This is from an article from justjared.com. So she was with Paul off and on for 6 years, but now Bethany is opening up about everything for the first time on her podcast, including. So this is what I'm saying is that you can't keep anything private if you are Bethany Frankel. Like, you'll even brag about keeping something private, but you'll be bragging about it while you're explaining every detail of it. And that is not being private with something. So I guess Aurora Culpo first spoke about her relationship with Paul on her podcast, Barely Filtered. That if you are anybody in any sort of industry now, you will have a podcast. Everybody listening right now, there's a chance that 30% of you will have a podcast by the end of the year. Anyways, she started speaking about this in June of 2024. And Aurora said about Paul, he's still getting to know my kids. He's met them twice and like on FaceTime and stuff. So she was talking about her relationship, right? Because it's her relationship. Now, Bethany then on July 7th on her podcast, Just Be with Bethany, gives us more details and says she initiated the breakup. So Bethany Frankel initiated the breakup with Paul, but added it was certainly mutual. Quote, hearing about your ex-fiance committing to another woman shortly thereafter on their first date, and then being inside their relationship, hearing about their sex and their gifts and meeting each other's kids and the level of commitment, it was gutting, it was brutal. Yeah, that's brutal. And that is something that probably everybody listening has had to deal with at one point, seeing an ex boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, like, move on. That is completely difficult. And it's also very, probably even more difficult, obviously, in the public eye, because normally you would not be, normally your ex is not going to be doing a podcast sharing those very specific details if you're in the public eye in that way. Bethany says it's embarrassing, adding it was hard for her to be labeled a spinster. Quote, being portrayed as the jilted ex who had been upgraded from, that my ex had moved on from me with a younger woman, and that it regurgitated the continuous narrative that he is a very under the radar person who has now gotten serious with someone when ironically, I was the very under the radar person, Bethany continued. I was with her. I was with her for like 4 sentences. I was like, hell yeah, man. Like, that's a whack narrative. Oh, screw that. Which, by the way, that wasn't my narrative. It was that, like, yeah, obviously this relationship had run its course and they kept that relationship very private. And yeah, I did assume that was because of Paul, because you let us know every flipping thing in your life. But I like that she says, she lets us know on her podcast her very personal podcast that she is the under the radar person. She says, I'm proud of myself and I'm proud of the way I handled the split. I think this woman has learned a lot too in regards to Aurora. Their actions cost them their relationship, which was brand new, and who knows what would have happened. Yeah, you probably happened. Bethany Frankel probably happened. You started talking about it on social. Who knows? But this can't help. Like Bethany Frankel, imagine that as your ex. She is going to be talking about you because I don't think it ends this week. I think we will get more and more details. We've studied Bethany over the years. And, by the way, this is even for Bethany fans listening. We've studied her. She will be talking more about this relationship. But then it is funny about her talking about her ex's split from the new girl. That's wild. But Bethany has a message for Aurora and any woman who might find themselves dating another woman's ex. She said to think about the other woman in any situation. If you're the new woman in a relationship, you need to tread lightly and be cautious about whoever the woman before you was, because we've all been in both positions. I think that is actually really smart advice. And I mean, really, Aurora, like, if your current, boyfriend, the ex is Bethany Frankel, you better really think that through. Like that is, you are committing to being talked about for the rest of your life, potentially. Bethany continues, I think by sharing all the details of your new relationship, you're disrespecting the last relationship. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to think about. That's an interesting thing, and I don't know what the rules are, or I don't know, it's being in a long-term relationship or a marriage or something like that. Um, it was, I mean, it still is hard. Like those kind of details. I don't know. I think about this a lot actually, because you don't want to disrespect that last relationship, or you don't want to ever brag about your I don't know, it's hard, but at the same time, you gotta live your life, and I don't know what that balance is. I mean, I mean, that is such a confusing thing because I don't know. Anyways, she also shared a message about Olivia Culpo, Aurora's famous sister. She's the one that just got married. Bethany shared, incidentally, I have messaged with Olivia Culpo. I reached out to her before this media spectacle got out of hand, and she responded to me, which is sweet because she just got married. And she was really nice and said she's a fan and she has all my books and she really looks up to me. And that was really kind. And it was actually a nice warm blanket during this whole crazy thing. So maybe she'll come on the podcast. Congratulations, Olivia. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful life with your new husband. Do we really think there is any fucking truth or any way in God's green earth that Olivia Culpo has all of Bethany Frankel's books? I have one Bethany Frankel book. It's called Bethany Frankel: A Place of Yes. I found it at a used bookstore in New York like a year ago, and it's a signed copy. I got it for $5. Awesome. Like one of the best. It'll be in my reality show museum one day, but it was a very exciting find. And it's we did some readings of it on the Patreon a long time ago. It's a beautiful book. It really is. Um, but I just love her sharing that Olivia Colpo reached out to her, DMing, and that Olivia Colpo kind of kissed the Bethany Frankel ring, said how much she looks up to Bethany Frankel. And that's the interesting thing about Bethany, is that you really truly don't know, like, who is her inner circle. Like sometimes you just think it's like this woman with her phone and her cottage cheese just running around filming things, and you want to know like who these lifelong friends are, who's actually in her circle, how often, like, is she one of those people that just goes through friends? Like it's always drama, always going through friends, or does she really have a good core group of people that you just never hear about? But it's also one of those things that I think people, because Bethany is successful, that people do kind of, I would imagine, kiss the ring or show respect, but then try to keep her at an arm's length in a sense. I don't know. That's the vibe I get. I don't know what vibe you guys get, but I just thought how amazing, because this guy Paul, I really don't know that much about him. And that was one of the interesting things about their relationship that I kind of liked, that I was like, oh, this guy really wants to stay out of the public eye. And I respected that, because that's got to be one of the hardest things when you are engaged to Bethany Frankel, who seems to adore being in the public eye. Seems like she needs that. It's like fuel for her. She really wants to be, and is, for all intents and purposes, an influencer. And, you got to give her flowers on that. But I just think, man, this Paul, he will never be able to date again. Like it's over for Paul. Paul should just pack it in terms of dating. You're done, buddy. You're done. Okay, moving on to some Real Housewives of Atlanta news. Love B. Scott, the outlet, is reporting This is their headline: exclusive, Phaedra Parks negotiating her return to Real Housewives of Atlanta. Cynthia Bailey filming more and more scenes. And their article says, could Frick and Frack be coming back? Sources exclusively tell lovebscott.com that the powers that be are working hard to negotiate Phaedra Parks' return to the Real Housewives of Atlanta amid an unexpected suspension, then firing. Everyone was hopeful that Phaedra's contract would be negotiated in time for her to attend Cynthia Bailey's event at Lake Bailey, the famous Lake Bailey, this past weekend, but they're still trying to work out the details. So this is confirmation, or potential more confirmation, on this rumor that we had a couple weeks ago that they were trying to get Phaedra to rejoin. She by Sheree Whitfield is allegedly, hopefully, rejoining as well. And Cynthia Bailey, who was a friend of, is now filming more and more scenes. So this will be interesting. Like, they're playing catch up because of the whole Kenya Moore situation. And the Kenya Moore situation is out of control now, too, because Bravo has now gone on record and said that they did not fire Kenya, that they didn't fire Kenya, which is confusing, and that they don't consider what she did revenge porn. So I don't know what is happening. Like they said, like an inside Bravo source. So I am so confused. We still have not gotten a top to bottom full recounting of this story, but we do know that Kenya is not coming back. So they are playing probably the scrambling game. So Phaedra, who is on Married to Medicine right now, she would potentially be pulling double duty. Would you guys like to see Phaedra back? I mean, she was so damn good on the Traders and Ultimate Girls Trip, and Candy is not there anymore. Even though I would love to see Phaedra really legitimately apologize to Candy Burris for, that horrible season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, and see, that's where I would love to see some forgiveness practiced. And, if Phaedra had a very genuine apology and understand, what she did and how harmful that was back then. But Phaedra, and I do wonder at this point, though, if they're bringing Phaedra, like, do they have to throw a lot of more money her way because she knows that they're kind of over a barrel right now, that they're in a bad spot and they're looking to save this season? So I just have a feeling they're probably having to pay out the wazoo to get some of these people back last minute. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact at all. I'm just speculating. I think it's really interesting and it's something to watch. Now, another Vanderpump adjacent story. This actually just came out while I was recording, is that Rachel Goes Rogue, Rachel Levis's, the artist formerly known as Raquel, her podcast just came out with a new episode. And this is great. How you title your pod. I'm not really good at titling my podcast, like the title, but Rachel's getting better. She's getting pretty good at this. She named her podcast, trying to find the name here. One sec. So the title of this episode is Raise Your Glass, ... This is Juicy. Maybe that's how I'll name this podcast episode, is This is Juicy, So Bad It's Good podcast. But this is the episode title, and she's answering some viewer questions. And somebody asked, do you miss your relationships with the Vanderpump Rules cast members? And this is what she said.
Do you miss your friendships with any cast members? Actually, I do. I miss my friendships with all of them in a strange way. I can say, like, sincerely, I do miss my friendship with Sheena, just like traveling to San Diego and hanging out with her and her daughter and talking and, I don't know, hanging out and having fun. I do miss that friendship. I mean, heck, I even miss Lala. I miss Lala's feisty energy, and thinking back on some of the interactions, like our most heated moments. I think that there's part of me now that understands Lala a lot more after experiencing this entire scandal. And I have an appreciation for Lala. Even Katie, like, there was a moment for Katie and I back when James brought us all to Palm Springs for our surprise engagement, and Katie and I had a good moment in the pool, and that could have been a good friendship too, but I did not prioritize those friendships. I think I miss everyone except for James. Friendships with.
Wow. That is huge when you think about everything involved. But also, it's what we talked about back then, is that he would be changing her mind. Like, things happen. You do soften over time. You do think about things. And that's why I thought it was so dangerous for Rachel to do this podcast when so much of her mental health is still up for grabs, when she's still working on herself, to put these, to put your words out there, and then to be a part of the reality reckoning in a very active lawsuit, and to say really, really awful things about these people. And it went both ways. But to say really awful things. And then all of a sudden, this episode, she's like, I miss Sheena. I miss Sheena. I miss even Lala. To say you miss Lala, you're kissing the ring. That's how life works, right? We're just talking about Olivia Culpo potentially kissing Bethany Frankel's ring. And now we're back to Rachel Leviss kissing Lala's ass. And by the way, I think Lala is in a spot right now. And I predicted this a while back. Now, I thought Sheena would be the first to have somebody like Rachel on the podcast, but I think Lala is in this kind of FU spot where I could see that conversation happening. And I could see that conversation happening on Lala's podcast, because I think Lala thinks in that kind of business mind as well, and get your bag. And I think she knows that conversation would be potentially huge. But this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So that's why I thought Rachel was really short-sighted in doing the lawsuits that she's doing and participating in the reality reckoning, because I had predicted that she would soften eventually. And if you gave her a year or 2 years, she would eventually get back on the cast of Vanderpump Rules. She would. And she would be the big bad. And honest, I really hope she doesn't do that. Anyways, I went and found the transcript for this episode, and because there were a couple of other bits that I wanted to read you before we go today. So this was just like a question and answer episode, very, very short episode. So the first question, curious to know if any cast members have tried communicating since the last reunion aired. And she says, no, I don't believe any of the cast members have reached out to communicate since the last episode aired this season. Do you miss your friendships with the cast members? And that was what we had just heard right there. But I mean, even to say Katie, that could have been a good friendship. I mean, you can already see Katie making like a jack off motion of like, sure. Now, anyways, okay, next question. Are you working? What are you doing now? What is next for you? And she says, right now, this podcast is my job, and I feel fulfilled doing it because I feel like the best way to live your life is to be in alignment with your purpose and getting paid to do what you love. And for me, that is healing others through my story and being a voice for people who feel like they don't have anyone to relate to. I want to be a voice for the person that I was going through all of this. So yes, I am that voice for the person who may be struggling and wants answers and doesn't know where to start. I'm hesitant to speak about where I'm going career-wise because it is private for me, but I can say I have an interest in yoga, doing yoga instruction. I heard that it is like a whole lifestyle dedication and it's transformative, and I'm all about that journey right now. I'm also very interested in sound healing and sound bowls, and I think there's something for me to explore there with the throat chakra, because overcoming my social anxiety has been a huge part of my soul's journey. Okay, so I'm in a state of flabbergastment. So much here to dissect, but listen, I know Rachel means well, but I think what the whole concern, what I just saying with the podcast is, when you're healing yourself, it's hard then to be the voice for everybody else and to help other people heal. Like, I mean, I guess just in the fact that it's a voice out there in the ether talking about a really bad situation, but I just don't think, nor have I ever gotten the impression listening to her podcast, that she's in a place at all where she knows herself still. It doesn't feel like she still fully knows herself. I mean, and how could you after all of this? I mean, this is like slow going. It's really intensive work that she's doing. So sometimes I feel it's like a little disingenuous to say, hey, I'm out there to heal others. It's like, no, I feel like really what this podcast about is watching you heal yourself. And I feel like that's like God's honest truth. And that's why it's interesting, because, where you started with this podcast, where Rachel started in that first episode, which I recapped, to now, she thinks very differently about, admitting that she misses Sheena and Lala. I mean, that is huge. That's like really big news. And I wish she would answer a question of, do you regret these lawsuits? Do you regret going so hard on this and reality TV? Because in a second, I'm going to read you something that's also going to blow your mind. But, then she goes to like yoga, throat chakras, sound bowls. That's a lot to, it's a lot. But like, I don't want to take away from the fact that I do think, I mean, I don't know, very specific, like, people that have been the other woman in breaking up a 9-year relationship. That's a very specific, maybe there's a lot of people out there that have been in Rachel's shoes, and maybe it helps them to hear somebody else like this. But I really do believe that it's more about, we're listening to her go through her, as Whitney would say, healing journey. So then they go on, says, she goes, um, those are just some of the things that I'm interested in taking the steps towards pursuing. Do you miss being on the show? And she says, part of me does. The part of me that got external validation from being on the show and feeling like I could control more of my own narrative. And that wasn't going to be the healthiest option for me. So that is why I opted out. So the interesting thing here is that she still gets the external validation from doing the podcast, right? And she gets to be in complete control of her narrative. She gets to be in control of the editing of this podcast. So she says she opted out, but yeah, a part of me does miss being on Vanderpump Rules. And then it says, would you do any other type of reality TV show like Traitors? And she says, I actually think I would do Traitors. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think I would do reality shows about my life. I think I would do a reality competition show like Traitors. That could be fun. Rachel, that ship has passed you by. That is done. You are done. You will not, unless Bethany Frankel produces a reality TV show and puts you in it, which is a possibility, you are done. Unless you drop these lawsuits, you are not going to be working for NBC Universal anytime soon, unless there's like some backroom deal where you get to be on the Traitors and you drop all sorts of lawsuits and bad mouthing and get out of the reality reckoning. NBC Universal does Bravo. They also do Peacock, which does the Traitors. You will not be considered for the Traitors. So I thought, what an interesting comment, and how different. Like, this is what I'm telling you. People's whole take changes over time. And I'm not saying this is like, I mean, this is what normal. That's why it's so weird when you like go so hard in the paint with how you feel and how Bravo should be taken down and what they don't do and what they do and how it's all bad. And then you're like, I'd do the Traitors. That sounds fun. Like, yo, you went on record. You actually took this to the legal system on top of that. You are in cahoots with Bethany Frankel. Like, there is, I mean, it really blows my mind. And I'm so curious if these clips will be left up. I think wild, because also, listen, I don't know how the legal system works. I mean, maybe I'll ask the Bravo docket about this, but I mean, this can't help her court cases when, just last week they were saying she was going to call witnesses of like the producers of Vanderpump Rules. And if you're saying this is a dangerous working environment that inspire all this danger, and then you're saying you miss these people and you go on the Traitors, I think it really confuses your actual argument overall. So anyways, yeah, Rachel seems like she is still out there healing, and we wish her the best, but I was blown away listening to that. Anyways, you guys, this is a really quick episode, just a quick hour and 10 minutes, but I hope you have a great Tuesday. Come back tomorrow. We have a great guest from the podcast Corporate Gossip. We'll have another guest on Thursday, and then Real Housewives of Orange County comes on Thursday night. We will be doing recaps here on So Bad It's Good. I am so excited. The first episode is so good, so fun. It's insane. The first, I think, 7 minutes you can watch of OC right now, and the first 7 minutes already starts off with a bang. Shannon Bedore, we see a bloody face from the car accident. It is insane. Really send out a lot of good vibes for Shannon Bedore this week, because she is going to need it. Wild episode. But anyways, thank you guys. I love you. If you like this podcast, consider leaving it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, know that we do this as mainly an audio podcast. And I will usually add things on the audio podcast that you will never see on YouTube at all. So consider subscribing over there as well if you need something to listen to on long car drives or just walking around and getting exercise. Okay, bye. Bye, guys.